everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Scopes from the 27th of July 2025 until the 2nd of August. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Weekly Scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year. And Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates. So every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. This week we've just got one main aspect. Shocking, right? Some weeks we've got like 8, 9 influencing us, right? So yeah, we've got Mars making a contra-parallel to Saturn. This entered on the 26th of July and is exact on the 2nd of August 2025 and leaves us on the 10th of August. So Mars is in Virgo and Saturn is in Pisces. So we've got mutable water and we've got mutable earth coming together. So yeah, I'm going to continue with the theme of talking about the main aspect or aspects, but this week we've just got one aspect influencing us this week, right? And also the main placements that happen throughout the days that I'm going to go in more in depth. So this is just a summary. So yeah, Mars' contra-parallel to Saturn is a tense aspect, and in a nutshell, it's asking us to balance our fiery energy or just our impulsiveness this week with structure and routine and patience, and focus on making disciplined progress. We've got the Moon's North Node going direct on the 28th of July, and this is sort of like a cosmic astrological reset button for our personal growth path. It helps and supports us to move forward with, kind of like renewed clarity, focus, about our souls, our life purpose. Mars entering Virgo, detail orientated, analytical, practical, organized energy. So we can use this to help us channel our drive, our motivations, our actions right into tasks that require our attention and precision, and as well as health focus, sort of like initiative, exercising, eating more healthily and all that jazz, right? We also got Venus is by a quintile to Pluto, so this is a nice subtle inward energy. It's a creative aspect that deepens our relationships and desires, and it's supporting us and inviting us to transform superficial relationships into something more meaningful, and also to change the way we may deal with our own emotions, in a subtle way, to deal with ourselves in a more deeper way as well. And especially when we're navigating in inward power struggles or outward power struggles dynamics in our relationships this week. Mercury semi-sextile to Jupiter, which is exact on the 29th of July. It helps us with communication and learning things this week, expanding our mental limits, or helping us to take in a lot of information, but obviously we have to watch out for burnout, and it just helps us to have more of a capacity to hold space more for positive, insightful changes and communication as well. Chiron goes retrograde on July the 30th, so this invites us to revisit our wounds around identity and self-assertion, putting ourselves forward, standing up for ourselves, right? It helps us to heal our inner child, our inner warrior, and find our inner child and inner warrior. The Sun's conjunction to Mercury on the 1st of August. Remember, Mercury's still in retrograde, right? So this helps bring clarity to our thoughts and communication, especially when we're talking about our emotional matters and dealing with our family issues and stuff like that. Venus makes a square to Saturn on the 1st of August as well as Venus is square to Neptune on the 1st of August. So these energy kind of bring to our attention our limits and responsibilities. It asks us to commit to what truly matters while releasing unrealistic expectations. So that's what Venus is square to Saturn wants us to do, and Venus is square to Neptune wants us, to get practical and realistic, especially about our romantic ideals and the difference between what we romanticize want to be true and what is actually real reality. It can bring confusion in relationships, but on the positive, it can inspire our spiritual connection and solutions to our problems as well. And Venus's quincunx to Pluto on the 2nd of August is uncomfortable, but again, it supports us with making those changes in our belief system, our values, and our relationships as well. And for some of you, it forces changes in your life. You may sort of have to let go or forced to let go of relationships and habits that no longer serve you. So yeah, that's the end of the summary of this week's main aspect and the day-to-day aspects that's influencing us. So now I'm going to go into a holistic astrological breakdown of the Mars contra-parallel Saturn aspect that's governing us this week, so I'm going to dive deep into it. So as I said, we have Mars in Virgo. The key words of this energy is position, service, health, day-to-day routine, right? 6th house or 6th house stuff. We got Saturn in Pisces, so all 12th house stuff, spirituality, karma, compassion, the things that undo us, the secrets and lies we keep from ourselves and others may keep from us. The exact alignment is at 9:42 p.m. on the 2nd of August, but the orb influence has been impacting us from the 26th of July and will continue to do so up until the 10th of August, as I said. So astrologically, it's slowing us down, Virgo, and it's mixing with Mars's fiery energy and Saturn's restrictive karmic vibes, so we've got three things: be fiery, slow down, and deal with your past heartbreak, rejection, all of that psychological, emotional, and spiritual trauma so you can move forward. It's a call ultimately to balance action with caution and reflecting on our past patterns and how they stop us from living the life we say we want. So it's all about taking discipline, the right action, saying the right words, and our karmic responsibility. It's time to review our past efforts, what we've been doing in our life, and think about how have your actions or lack of action shaped your current reality. It's providing us with the energy to align with our purpose, do the things that we need to do and reach our goals, and to make sure that our goals are rooted in integrity and service, not just personal gain. It wants us to be open to being patient, slowing down and refining, leveling you up, changing our strategies, and remember it's quality over quantity. It's the energy that really wants us to recollaborate, rethink, reset our spiritual practices and the way we look after our emotional and spiritual and psychological needs. It wants us, it's urging us, pushing us, and bringing to our attention the need to integrate our physical and metaphysical worlds. Psychologically, it can bring inner conflict. We may feel a tug of war, a pull, right, between our desire, us wanting to do what we want and, instant gratification. Oh, I want to hook up now, I'm going to hook up, and our need to act bravely, represented by Mars, or our need to hold back and self-reflect, Saturn, right? It wants us to be more mature and responsible, pushing us to grow up and take ownership of our life choices. A lot of the time we say, these things keep on happening to me, I don't know why, but ultimately I know it can be hard when you are in coercive and controlling relationships and toxic relationships to get out of them. So it's not about shame or blame. You have to do your research to slowly but surely leave these situations, right? But ultimately, it wants us to take ownership of our choices, but we can be frustrated, in doing so. It wants us to channel our restlessness, our impulsiveness, our frustration into productive, structured efforts, routine, kind of like execution, to meet our needs, right? And to be more disciplined in our life. So we can ask ourselves, where am I rushing without a plan, and where am I holding back due to fear? So in terms of the karmic and spiritual meanings, the karmic lesson of this aspect this week is, to heal and balance our energies, especially when it comes to the ways we may be impulsive in our actions, words, or too excessive in the way that we are caution, thinking too much, overthinking, planning and replanning and never doing it, just planning, procrastinating, which we're all guilty of, right? It wants us to balance the energies of taking action and being cautious, right? Impulsiveness and, right action. In terms of spiritual growth, it's the time to align our actions with our soul's higher consciousness, highest good, our real authentic purpose. And how do you know that? Well, you have to think about the things you want to go in your life, right? And you can ask yourself, are you serving others or just yourself? On the esoteric level, it symbolizes the integration of masculine, represented by Mars, and feminine, Saturn in Pisces energies, and energy of doing and chilling, right? Self-reflection and action, structure, routine and flow. So reflect on, how can I use my energy to contribute to the greater good, my greater good, the greater good of my children, but remembering, after a certain age they have to take responsibility for their own lives, and how can you help your family unit or partner and stuff, but remembering, knowing what is your stuff and what is their stuff as well. And so the key word this week is doing all you need to do, helping others, yes, but while also staying true to your own path as well. So now I'm going to do advice for each of the 12 zodiac signs. Aries this week, slow down, double check your plans. Impulsive moods can backfire this week. Focus on disciplined progress, do not be impulsive in your moves, your actions and reactions. Chiron, going retrograde in your sign, is asking you to face old wounds around assertiveness, standing up for yourself and identity. Use Mars entering Virgo to channel your energy into practical self-improvement rather than impulsive actions that may aggravate your tender spots and cause problems, unnecessary problems in your work or any other area of your life, Taurus, use this time to organise your finances and long-term goals, and patience will pay off. With Uranus in your sign getting attention from Venus, right? Unexpected shifts in how you perceive, think about your value and worth, And Saturn and Neptune are challenging your ruling planet this week, which is Venus, right? So it's time to balance romantic ideals with practical commitments in relationships, as well as, yes, staying true to yourself as well. Gemini, channel your energy into learning or communication projects this week. Avoid scattering your focus, doing too much, With Jupiter and Venus in Gemini, you're experiencing expansion, a growth in or a chance to grow in your social connections, relationships and your creativity, so great for creative projects, creative writing, dancing, singing, production, whatever. However, the squares to Saturn and Neptune mean telling the difference between genuine opportunities and wishful thinking this week, and will be crucial for making progress this week in your projects, so working with the energy, chilling out a bit, but also expressing yourself through creativity as much as you can this week. Cancer, balance your emotional needs with practical responsibilities. Remember, self-care is key. With the Sun and Mercury making a conjunction, even though Mercury's in retrograde, right, it still brings clarity to your emotional world and self-expression. Use this spotlight, of energy to articulate your feelings, especially those you've been bottling up, keeping inside, And Mars in Virgo brings practical energy to your communication this week, which is also good as well, so it helps you to kind of balance any emotions this week, Leo, focus on refining your creative projects. Perfectionism can be a strength here. The Sun, which rules you, right, conjoins Mercury, so your intuitive insights deserve attention and expression this week, and this energy is helping you do that, right? Mars in Virgo is in your resources, the things you earn, right? So it's time to organise your finances and time and talents with meticulous attention to detail, so you can make the most of this week's energy, right? Virgo, look after your health, or service orientated work in healthy ways, helping others. You may enjoy your work more if you work in the healthcare or service industry this week. Your attention to detail can shine this week. With Mars entering your sign, you're receiving a cosmic energy boost to pursue, and go after your goals with precision. The Mars Saturn Contra-Parallel asks you and supports you in balancing, your motivation to work on your personal goals this week with patience and routine structure, and avoid perfectionism while embracing, being open to steady progress this week. Libra, reflect on your relationships, making sure they're balanced and mutually respectful this week. The Moon entering your sign midweek, this brings emotional clarity and balance to your thinking, your perspective. Your ruling planet Venus is facing multiple challenging aspects this week, so showing that relationships require honest communication this week rather than glossing over issues, being superficial and people pleasing over the deeper issues this week. Scorpio, use this time for introspection, self-reflection and healing. Let go of past regrets, with the Moon entering your sign on the 2nd of August. This increases your emotional intensity and intuitive capabilities, and with your co-ruler Pluto receiving aspects from Venus, relationship power dynamic struggles and the balance of power are highlighted, asking you to transform rather than control relationships this week, Sagittarius, plan your travels or studies carefully, avoid overcommitting. With Jupiter and Gemini, this continues to expand your relationship limits, while Mercury's aspect to your ruler, to Jupiter, right, brings opportunities for meaningful conversations. And the Mars-Saturn tension this week, reminds you to balance exploring, trying new things with practicalities and your commitments, right? Do not take on too much at once, basically, this week, Sads. Capricorn, focus on career growth, but don't neglect your personal life. Remember, balance is key. With Pluto still in the late degrees of your sign, the Venus aspects trigger deep transformation in how you express and receive love. Mars in, Virgo supports your professional goals with detailed, methodical action and steps. And Aquarius this week, collaborate, work with others. Teamworking is really good. You can really ensure your ideas are heard this week. Stay innovative, with the new and next level thinking this week. With the North Node in your sign going direct, important forward momentum, steps forward on your path can be gained. Saturn, your traditional ruler, in aspect to Mars, asks you to balance innovative new ideas with practical strategies. Pisces, dive deep into spiritual practices or creative projects. Your intuition is your guide this week, with Saturn and Neptune both in your sign and receiving challenging aspects from Venus. You can deal with the tension between dreams and reality in relationships. The Mars-Saturn contra-parallel helps you to find concrete, solid ways to manifest your creative visions and put your ideas into practical execution this week, which is always a good thing, hey dreamy fists? So my mantras and guidance for this week are based on the majority of energies that you have in your natal chart. So some of you may have natal charts that are dominant in more than one energy. You may have your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign all in different energies. You may have aspects to different planets. So ultimately this could mean you have some planets that are in fire, some in water signs, some in earth signs. So for example, if you have most of your planets in Aries, Scorpio and Capricorn, read the mantras for all of these signs. And if you have all your planets mostly in Taurus, read the mantra for Taurus, but you may also want to read for Libra because Venus rules Taurus and Libra, right? So yeah. So in terms of your mantras this week, guys, for Aries, I act with purpose, not impulse. I heal my warrior spirit by taking methodical, well-planned out action rather than impulsive leaps. Taurus, my patience grows my wealth. I am open to unexpected changes in my values while remaining grounded in what truly matters. Gemini, focus motivates my success. I discern the difference between genuine opportunities and wishful thinking through careful communication, self-reflection and checking the facts right. Cancer, I nurture my soul and my duties. I express my emotions with newfound clarity while organising my inner world. Leo, perfection is my creative superpower. I shine by paying attention to the details that transform passion into lasting achievement. Virgo, my health is my greatest wealth. I channel my increased energy into precise, actionable steps that honour both ambition and my limitations. Libra, balance is my relationship superpower. I find balance by acknowledging relationship truths rather than idealizing connections. Scorpio, I release the past to heal. I transform power dynamics by releasing control and being open to vulnerable authenticity. Sagittarius, my plans are my future. I expand my limits through meaningful conversations that respect practical boundaries. Capricorn, I raise with integrity. I build success through methodical steps while allowing relationships to evolve to change organically over time. Aquarius, my voice matters in every collaboration. I advance my unique path by balancing innovative new ideas with structured routine implementation, carrying things out in small stages, step by step. Pisces, my intuition is my truth. I honour both my dreams and reality by finding practical outlets for spiritual insights. So ultimately this week is a powerful reminder that growth happens in the balance between action and self-reflection and reflection in general. Use this time to refine, level up, change, realign and reconnect with your deeper purpose. Now I'm going to talk about what content creators or the content that you should take in this week. So with Mars in Virgo and Saturn in Pisces in contra-parallel this week, highlighting a clash between our energetic, our motivational drive, Mars, right, and our structural limitations, our routine limitations in our environment, our finances and stuff, represented by Saturn. This prompts a need for balanced action and patience this week, right? So content around how we can become more productive and disciplined, sharing strategies or listening to strategies for setting realistic goals and maintaining discipline in between challenges, lifing all the time. Discuss time management techniques and the importance of structured schedules, routine to enhance day-to-day, increase day-to-day productivity. Health and wellness content, focus on health tips, listening to them, talking about them, especially because Mars is in Virgo. Content offering advice on maintaining physical, mental and spiritual well-being through practical routines and mindfulness practices and healthy eating and sleeping regimes. In terms of spiritual growth, explore themes of intuition, what stops us from being able to listen to our intuition. Now, I don't like saying it stops, but when we are experiencing depression and anxiety, mental health issues, it can interfere, and especially if we suffer from deeper mental health issues like schizophrenia, bipolar and stuff, it can be hard to know what's intuition and what's our disorder, right? So exploring safe listening to your intuition and managing any blocks to being able to trust your intuition, like trying to deal with your psychological, emotional, spiritual trauma, managing it, accepting yourself, loving yourself, letting go of the past, and working with overcoming fear, and how to balance intuitive insights with logic as well, as we build our emotional and psychological resilience. And content that helps you or people connect with their spiritual side, creating inner peace and compassion. And content that explores creativity and problem solving, that encourages creative solutions to setbacks, highlighting the importance of adaptability and innovative new next level thinking and using it to overcome obstacles. So ultimately, this week, listen to content that is supportive, or create content that's supportive and encouraging in tone, sprinkled with a bit of humour, because we have to make change in ourselves for life, because it's a lifelong kind of lifelong task, as I found, a bit funny, right? And we have to learn to laugh at ourselves, and you can make sure that your content have questions. So, asking your listeners how can they balance action with patience, and providing actions for that, and giving them strategies that can help them stay disciplined while nurturing their spirit, or listening to content that helps you have that. And by confronting both practical and the spiritual aspects this week, content creators and we can empower ourselves and our audience to navigate this week effectively, creating both growth and resilience, and that all important self-care and love, right? On the 27th of July, the moon enters void of course at 5:57 p.m, and that's all that happens really. So on the 28th of July, Venus makes a biquintal to Pluto at 4:37, and Venus is in Gemini and Pluto's in Capricorn, and this lasts for 3 days. The moon's north node goes direct at 9:30 a.m. The moon enters its crescent moon phase at 12:41 p.m, and Mars enters Virgo at 3:30 p.m, and the moon enters Virgo at 7:30 tonight. Mercury makes a semi-square to Venus at 8:20 in the morning as well, and Mercury's in Cancer, and Venus makes a sextile to Chiron before Chiron goes into retrograde on the 30th of July, but when it makes its sextile to Venus, it's still direct, but it's in its post retrograde phase, so it's like it's in retrograde anyway. So Venus is biquintal to Pluto, adds to the creativity and the ground for change this week, giving us that sort of energy that allows us and supports us in digging and diving deep into our passions and desires, and create intense connections with ourselves and others. It's like an astrological push to explore our creative side and transform our relationships, but on the flip side, it can bring up some power dynamics, add to them this week, right, where we can have misunderstandings and in communication. So we have to try and be open Mercury semi-square to Venus adds to communication problems in our relationship. It adds to it being like when Wi-Fi disconnects, things don't flow smoothly, so we have to be doubly careful with this energy and all the other week's energies, right? We have to be patient and take time to really listen. And to see, communication problems in relationships is to come up as a bump in the road, not a crisis. Reflect on how you express your feelings and make sure you're hearing others out and you're asserting your boundaries. You're not just people pleasing and suppressing your true emotions to keep the peace, right? Venus's sextile to Chiron adds to the healing energies of this week, especially in our love life and our creative expression, right? It gives us the chance to mend old wounds, especially when it comes to wounds about not being enough, whether it's through art, music, or just a deep chat, let your creative side be therapy. It's all about turning past pain into strengths. When Mars enters Virgo, we can become more efficient and hardworking. It's time to organise your tasks and focus on the details. And getting ready to be practical, it's a great energy for tackling projects, especially those that need precision and care. Just remember, perfectionism can be a trap, so keep things balanced. The moon's north node goes direct and enters its crescent moon while the moon enters its crescent moon phase. So this allows us to make these new beginnings and supports us in our personal growth, and it allows us to refresh our goals and replan our strategies. Crescent moon is all about taking action, so make moves, if you feel called to and you've done the planning right, or for some of you just do it anyway and rechange your plans as you go along, right? It's energy that supports us being open to fresh starts and being open to progress, right? So ultimately today wants us to grow through facing our challenges head on rather than avoiding them, and go after our passions, repair relationships with careful communication and taking practical steps. But we just need to watch out for communication problems and power struggles as well. The best use of this energy is to take practical steps forward and repair what needs repairing, and just think about how you can use today's energy to deepen your connections and go after your goals, right? And what steps are you ready to take to heal? Today's energy in the karmic level wants us to remember that true power comes from vulnerability, not control. We have to learn to balance hustle culture with sustainable routines, Psychologically, we have to try not to overthink conversations and try to break tasks down into tiny steps, because Virgo energy thrives with checklists. It loves a checklist, yeah. So, Gen Z, dismantle comparison culture. Instagram versus reality. Millennials, heal workaholic tendencies. Remember that rush is productive. And Gen X, release perfectionism. Remember, good enough is enough. And really today, writing things down on pen and paper, old school write, and burning it can really just give you that ritualistic feel to the day and make you feel and get clarity on the things you need to let go of. And every task today, if you see it as a sort of sacred act, see it as meditation, and this can help you stay chill and calm and overcome any internal conflict. On the 29th of July, Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Jupiter, and Mercury is in Cancer and Jupiter's in Gemini, and this is exact at 4:44 a.m. So doing a meditation at this time can be really powerful as well, and this energy just lasts for a couple of days. Again, it's just another one that really allows us to focus on that big picture energy, taking care of the bigger details as well as the smaller details that Mars in Virgo supports us in handling this week. We can have some deep conversations once again with this energy, but Mars in Cancer adds to the emotional vibe of this week, allowing us to soak up knowledge and share our experiences with each other. We just need to watch out for overconfidence, because Jupiter energy can make us feel like we know it all, so we have to stay humble today. And the best use of this energy is, once again, is to have those deep conversations, engage critical thinking, listen to a podcast, read or write a book, well, not the whole book, but do things that mean something to you, and that can help you get the facts that you need right now, and let your intuition guide your decisions today. With Mercury being in the Sabian symbol of a very old man facing a vast dark space to the northeast, and Jupiter's Sabian symbol is bridging physical space and social distinctions. Two men communicate telepathically. So spiritually, again, it's like a Wi-Fi booster to the brain. We can suddenly notice answers that we've been overlooking, on the spiritual level. We can have quite insights. We can resolve ancient patterns, especially knowledge hoarding patterns, allowing us to use technology freely, teach others freely, learn things freely. A good energy for learning new things as well. It's a good energy to research family history, calling someone, not just texting them or DMing them, really focusing on authentic and quality communication. On the 30th of July, the moon void, of course, starts at 4:57 a.m. Mercury is at semi-square to Mars is at 8:22, and Chiron goes retrograde in Aries today at 3:42. So Mercury semi-square to Mars allows us to really be motivated in our communication and actions, so adding to the main energy of this week. But we just have to remember to keep our cool, our balance, as this energy pushes us, motivates us to get things done. So it's a really good energy to push us forward and not lose our chill. So positively, Mars brings the energy, so we're ready to hustle. We can have more clarity in our words, and we can be like a detective solving mysteries like a pro, and we can just get to the point in our conversations. So this is really good energy for saying the things that need to be said, but negatively it can add to the impatience of the week. We need to slow down and not speed through things, because this energy can just make us think like we need to get it done now, so that it allows us to chill on the positive, so do that. But our directness in our speech can ruffle some feathers, overstep some people's boundaries, make them feel uncomfortable, or you can feel uncomfortable if someone speaks too directly. So try and give some grace. Sometimes we may not like what others say, sometimes we may not like the directness, but sometimes it's what we need to move situations forward. So yeah, say what you mean, but try not to be harsh. Channel this energy into our goals, and let your heart and your head work together, using this energy to stay focused and to communicate effectively. And think about one thing that you can do that you've been putting off, using this motivational energy practically. Spiritually, it wants us to find a balance and helps us to find a balance between our emotional sensitivity, Cancer energy, and practical action, Virgo energy, and it supports us in healing our inner trailblazer, our inner warrior, the side of us that wants to get things done, but again, we have to avoid making those rush decisions, turn criticism into solutions, and we can use this energy to work through any wounds you may have on the psychological, emotional, spiritual level, about taking lead and standing up for what you believe, and being a leader in your life. So nurture vulnerable truths. Your gut feelings need voicing right now. Work through any childhood fears of not being brave enough or not being enough in general, thinking about what needs releasing, and do one brave thing that you may have been avoided to do. And our mantra today can be, I channel chaos into constructive magic. So this energy can really help us move forward. On the 31st of July, the moon enters Libra, and this energy brings balance and harmony, so this is really good. It's all about fair play, this energy, so we can be more about justice and keeping things balanced, and it helps us to do so. We can fashion a bit more as well, want to be in trend, and and we can just feel fancy, you know, want a nice meal, want to have a nice sort of talk with someone. You can be in the mood for good chats and deep connections as well. But negatively, indecision can make us feel stuck between options, like choosing between two favourite things that you like, you know. So, you know, try to make your mind up, but don't be so hard on yourself if you can't make a decision right now. And of course, Libra energy always brings people pleasing, and we've got a lot of energy that can make us do that this week. So remember, you can't make everyone happy, so don't stress. Try and do something to make yourself happy while taking into account other people's needs. But, you know, remember that sometimes you just can't do that, you know. So the best use of this energy is to try and bring balance to your space and relationships if you can. Take a moment to pamper yourself, you know, you deserve it. Use this energy to chill out, relax and enjoy the vibe, you know, there's no need to rush, and just think about in general how you can bring more harmony into the different areas of your life. On the 1st of August, as we go into the new month, right, the Sun is in Cancer, the Moon is in Libra, Mercury is in Cancer, in retrograde as well, Venus is in Gemini, Mars is in Virgo, Jupiter is in Gemini, Saturn is retrograde in Pisces, Uranus is in Taurus, Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, and Chiron is retrograde in Aries, and the North Node is in Aquarius direct. So yeah. So as we go into the new month, the Sun is in Cancer, so it adds to our ability to nurture our inner self and connect with others, you know, those who we call our squad, our peeps, our people, you know, and we can be really tapped into our intuition, as I said, and feeling all the feelings, you know. But negatively, it adds to us being sensitive and clingy this week, so we need to keep our boundaries in check as the Sun's in Cancer over the next 2 weeks, and it just helps us build or rebuild strong connections and focus on our self-care. With the Moon in Libra, it allows us to bring balance. Mercury in retrograde allows us to revisit old ideas and memories, but, you know, communication mishaps can happen, so we have to double check our communication and just give extra time for journeys and all third house stuff, you know. The best use of this energy is to reflect on past experiences and plan for the future. With Venus in Gemini, it allows us to be curious and social, but we just need to watch out for being easily distracted. It's a good energy to explore new things and keep things fresh in our relationships. With Mercury in Virgo, it's good for us to, you know, stay focused on our goals and create routines over the next 3 to 4 weeks, you know. But we just need to watch out for being too critical. And the best use of this energy is to do things that require attention to detail. And with Jupiter in Gemini, it allows us to learn and grow, you know, but we just need to watch out for getting overwhelmed and taking in too much info and doing too much. The best use of this energy is to learn new skills, stay curious in a grounded way. Saturn retrograde in Pisces allows us to reflect on our spiritual journey this month, but negatively we can feel stuck, you know. The best use of this energy is to use it for your spiritual, emotional and psychological growth, and start or continue the work of letting go of what's holding you back. With Uranus in Taurus, it allows us to be ready for change, but we may resist new ideas. The best use of this energy is to be open to change and try new things. With Neptune retrograde in Pisces, it adds to our intuition, but also negatively adds to the confusion over the next month, right? The best use of this energy is to do the work so we can trust our own feelings and focus on our spiritual side, you know. And Pluto retrograde in Capricorn allows us to transform, to let go, to tear down and rebuild the things that we need to from the inside out. But negatively, it can just make us feel like we're not moving forward, that we're stuck in a rut, you know. But a lot of the time, this energy wants us to reflect before moving forward, but sometimes you can try and push against it. The best use of this energy is to focus on personal growth and let go of what's not serving you. Chiron retrograde in Aries helps us to heal and find our inner strength. Negatively, our old wounds can come up. The best use of this energy is to work on healing and being open to our true selves. And the Moon's North Node in Aquarius allows us to work with others and be innovative, you know. Negatively, we can feel detached, you know, with this energy, and this can lead to relationship breakdowns, you know. So the best use of this energy is to focus on the bigger picture, the big details, and how you can contribute to the collective growth and your own growth, and just making your own life and family life and easy, you know. Asking yourself, how are you balancing your emotions, and you know, how you can bring more balance to that area, you know. So on the 1st of August, Venus makes a semi-sextile to Uranus, the Sun makes a conjunction to Mercury at 42 minutes past midnight, the Moon enters via combustor at 1:04 p.m, the Moon's North Node goes retrograde at 1:33 p.m, the Moon enters first quarter moon phase at 1:42 p.m, and Venus makes a square to Saturn at 1:34 p.m. The moon void, of course, starts at 8:26 p.m, and Venus makes a square to Neptune at 9:49 p.m. So yeah. So Venus's sextile to Uranus allows us to try new things. We can make unexpected connections between information, or with, you know, new people entering our lives. We can be more open to new experiences, but it can add to the unpredictable of the week, you know. So we have to do what we can to stay flexible and be open to surprises and open to change, you know, especially when it comes to our relationships, because although today's energy may push us outside of our comfort zone, but whatever happens ultimately will prove to be for the best, right? The Sun's conjunction to Mercury again allows us to be highly communicative, to make progress in our communication, and our ideas can come across more clearly, but we can overthink, and it adds to the impulsiveness and restlessness of the week. It allows us to share our thoughts and listen actively to others, which a lot of energy does this week. Venus's square to Saturn allows us to focus on building strong, lasting connections, but negatively we can feel lonely or restricted. The best use of this energy is to work on our commitments and show love through actions. Venus makes a square to Neptune, so we can just feel inspired and connected to our intuition, but negatively it can add to us feeling confused or idealistic. The best use of this energy is to trust your gut and seek a spiritual connection, trying to do all your best to be open to surprises while staying grounded, which is like hard, right, as today's energy brings inspiration and challenges, right? But you know, just try and do your best with this energy and stay as grounded as you can. On the 2nd of August, Venus makes a quincunx to Pluto at 6:46 a.m, and Venus is in Gemini and Capricorn's in Pluto in retrograde, right? Mars makes a quincunx to Chiron, and Mars is in Virgo, and Chiron's retrograde in Aries. The Moon enters Scorpio at 7:23 p.m, and Mars's contra-parallel to Saturn is exact at 9:42, and that's the only aspect that's influenced us this week, right? So the main influence, that is. So yeah, Mars's contra-parallel, as I said in the introduction, leaves us on the 10th of August, and Mercury's quincunx to Chiron and Venus's quincunx to Pluto lasts us over the next few days. So Venus's quincunx to Pluto allows us to be passionate and transform our relationships, so good for healing in our relationships, but we can just become too obsessive in them. The best use of this energy is to transform your relationships and let go of what's holding you back. Mars's quincunx to Chiron allows us to heal old wounds, and we can feel motivated to do so, and it gives us the extra power to take care of the needs of our body, but also can add to us feeling stuck and frustrated. The best use of this energy is to focus on healing and taking care of yourself. And the Moon in Scorpio, as we round off the week, right, allows us to feel intense emotions and dive deep, but we can be moody and secretive with this energy. The best use of this energy is to use it to connect with your emotions and intuition, and just be open to nurturing yourself and others as we close down the week. This energy is good for research and digging deep into ourselves and healing the things that we need to heal. So This week is all about repairing our relationships, being open to unexpected things as we move forward. So yeah, I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach, and that's the end of the weekly scopes from the 27th of July to the 2nd of August.